Hello, 'tis I, Nate, your friendly neighborhood mystic, making another video. After what? Most of a year? I don't think I've posted since March or something like that. A lot going on, needless to say. I got dreads, obviously. We'll get that out of the way first thing if you haven't seen me. Been loving them. They're fun. Don't know how long I'll keep them, but we'll see. We moved at the start of the year, we being my little family and we also had a new addition to the family at the start of the year as well. And so both of those things, I think, just a lot of time and energy needed. So that's kind of why I've been taking a break from social media. I didn't make a conscious decision to do that. I wasn't just like one day, all right, no more Facebook, no more Instagram, I'm done for a month. It was just, I think I just felt called to put my time and attention elsewhere. But for whatever reason tonight, I felt inclined to share some thoughts with you about this past year and probably just the biggest insight that I've been developing that I wanted to share with you, and hopefully you relate to what I've been working on myself, and perhaps you'll get some insight into how that operates in your own life. I'm trying not to make this video super long either, so I'm gonna try to really give a big, meaty thought without beating it to death, which I tend to do. So, without further ado, let's go into the past. We've all got one, and it's always complicated. When I was probably around 12, I think I really started to do some major identity forming, and I was raised Christian, so a big role model for me, of course, was Jesus Christ, and what a guy. Great example of some amazing things like love and humility and selflessness. And these were all things that early on I really latched onto. Of course, going through teen years, as we all did, or are currently going through, there's a lot of things going on and a lot of identity forming happening, and ego stuff, selfishness, self-consciousness, just it's really chaotic. And I think especially in high school, I was really starting to step into this kind of identity, and there were certain talents and abilities that I had that I can't take really any credit for, that I just had. In my attempt to be perceived by others a certain way, it was this game that I played that I think a lot of people play, where we want to be perceived by others as this, but inside we've got this other thing going on, and it's this game of trying to kind of hide this away effectively, even though this is what's wanting to be expressed, and then trying to express this stuff that without coming off as like you're faking it. And I was doing that all the time in high school, uh, where I wanted to be seen as this really humble, selfless, loving person. But inside, even though I had some of those things going on, I also had some selfishness and some ego and some pride and arrogance and, going on as well. Um, and so I kind of overcompensated, I think, looking back at it, and developed these toxic traits of self-depreciation, of not being able to accept compliments, and then proceeding to put myself down after I receive a compliment just to make sure they know I'm real humble. And I didn't have a lot of positive inner talk because I felt like that would lead to becoming prideful if I thought of myself in a positive way. Um, all of this going on to avoid being perceived as arrogant, um, prideful, egotistical, and selfish, which everyone was dealing with at the time. So I wasn't a special case. This is just how it showed up for me. When I did receive a compliment or I did do something awesome, there was this part of me inside that felt really good about it, that really was amped about it and was enjoying the attention and the spotlight. There was a part of me that really loved it, but I didn't want that part to be known. And I'm still dealing with that tendency today. That set very deeply into me, this reflex and this kind of performance. And I don't know how I was really perceived in high school. I don't know what the perceptions of others were of me, and I'm sure it was a vast range. And frankly, I'm trying not to care anymore what people think. It's hard, but I'm trying to develop that, because caring about what other people think is a huge impetus in creating this false self, this self, these masks that we put on, right? Depending on who we're with or the situation. I still do it to a certain extent. I don't know if we can get fully away from it, but it's just funny looking back to see how I was so afraid of being perceived as something that almost the attempt to be perceived as opposite of that ended up making me be perceived as that anyway. So it's funny how that kind of wraps around and your real self comes out anyway. Nowadays, when I still value these things, humility and selflessness and love, these are still huge focuses in my life that I'm trying to develop within myself and really honestly develop them so that I don't have to fake it, that it's just like kind of who I am. That's the only way to do it. But with this, I've also had to accept these parts of me that in high school I was denying, that I was resisting and avoiding and not wanting to look at. I've had to look at them, and it can be painful, especially when you've spent so much time in resistance to that thing. To look at it is almost unbearable. But it's the only way to grow, heal, integrate, whatever you got to do with whatever that is. You have to look at it. You have to deal with it. And if you don't feel ready to, then give it some time. Wait until you feel ready. But I would really urge you to do this kind of self-work of just observing how you are in certain situations and why. Thoughts, emotions, actions, words, why are they the way that they are? And that will lead to self-understanding. So I've been trying to do a lot of that myself, and I've had to learn that to a certain extent, we need to be a little selfish sometimes. I like to think of it more as self-love and self-care rather than selfishness, because that has like this negative connotation that I still can't break away from. So I have to call it something different just to deal with the fact that I have that in me. I mean, to survive is to be selfish, right? You have to be selfish to survive. And we have to survive in order to serve others and truly be selfless. So this self-love, this self-care, like everyone's talking about it, everyone's saying like you need this thing, but how do you actually get that when there are parts of you that for up till this point in your life you have been actively hating? How do you come around to loving yourself even though that's part of you? You can try to hack away at it and get rid of it and stuff, and to a certain extent there are things that we can free ourselves from over time, but before we can free ourselves of things, we need to know what they are and why they are. So I had to really look at my own pride and my own ego and my own selfishness that still pops up today. I'm not free of it. Definitely not. But at least I see it now. I'm aware of it.